agenda. You can see it here in front of you, and we'll jump right ahead to the next slide, which is a set of updates that we've provided recently both to our board, to our advisory groups, and then this morning to the first of these two participant webinars. We have, and you'll see in a coming slide, been working on developing a comprehensive list of exactly how many credentials are in the marketplace in the United States. We have at this point about 2,200 in the registry, and thank you all very much for your participation with us and for your contributing those credentials to this initiative. We are aiming to capture a marketplace that represents about 350,000 unique credentials, and we are aiming by the end of this year to have about 50,000 in the registry. So we'll explain a little bit more about how we're getting there, but we have a fairly aggressive goal this year, and appreciate, like I said, all of the work that we're doing with you. Most of you know that we have 2 state partnerships that are in play right now. We are working with the state of Indiana and with the state of New Jersey. Indiana's work focuses in large part at this point on the healthcare industry and the credentials that are needed in that industry. New Jersey is tackling 7 industry sectors in their state and are working with their community colleges and industry associations and state agencies to put credentials in those 7 sectors into the registry. They are just about ready to start that publishing process. First, as part of the work that we've done in Indiana, but also growing to other states and other initiatives, we're beginning to identify a handful of sectors, industry sectors that we want to work with. As I said, Indiana has been a heavy focus on healthcare. New Jersey is going to be working on healthcare, and some of our initial work in the military has been around healthcare. So we're hopeful that we're going to be able to roll out a national healthcare initiative this year. We are very close, we think, to being able to announce a partnership that will let us have a national retail and hospitality industry sector initiative this year. That work, once we have it finalized, we'll be putting some information and announcements out. We're very excited to get that, which will be likely our first industry partnership. And then we are hoping by the end of the year to be able to announce some work around a national IT and cybersecurity initiative as well. Going back to Indiana, they were able to work with 2 military training facilities as part of their state work around healthcare, the Medical Education Training Campus and the Uniformed Services University. Those 2 entities within the military have continued to work with us and are publishing credentials. We're expanding some of our conversations across the military into different portions of the various branches and with DoD as a whole, and are excited to be working more closely with one of the nation's best training providers that's out there. And then we're also working with a number of just institutions, individual systems, and others who come to us and are raising their hand and saying, we'd like to publish our credentials. We really appreciate all of you who have stepped forward and sharing the word, because we do continue to get references and recommendations for organizations that pick up the phone and call us and want to be a part of this effort. We're not just working in the United States, we're trying to expand internationally. We've been working with a set of analysts from JP Morgan Chase to help us think through some of the international credentialing challenges and opportunities. And we're going to, this year, likely stand up a international credentials working group so that we can work with more experts, get more perspective, and to help us get a better idea about the best ways that we can step forward from just doing United States-based credentials, but can also begin to capture credentials across the globe. Everyone here on the call knows the credential transparency description language and the really secret sauce of all of this work. That language continues to grow and continues to expand. It is a living, breathing, evolving language. We want to make sure we're constantly thinking about the best ways to have that language meet the current conditions and the current realities of the credential marketplace. So we're going to be working this year to expand some of the terms and descriptions and classes around quality assurance, around labor market value, around employer signaling, so we can have employers indicate which credentials they prefer or recognize or require, and then more information to capture some of those really complex relationships between credentials that live along an education and career pathway. We're also going to continue to do work to build on the publishing methods, and Jeannie's going to spend some time talking about those later in the presentation this afternoon, making sure that we are making the publishing of credentials to the registry as easy and as efficient as possible, so that we're making this not a process and a burden for you, but something that is just a standard operating procedure. In the quality arena, we continue to focus on making sure that we have both the quality indicators in the credential transparency description language to allow us to capture critical information about credentials, but that we also spend time internally to make sure that we have our own internal auditing and quality assurance processes in place inside of Credential Engine and inside of the registry management, so that we can be assured that we're providing to the public the best, most reliable information about credentials. Everyone knows policy associated with publishing to the registry. We are working to add to that by having a set of best practice models that we're going to explore with our partners and advisory groups, so that the minimum data is good data, it's necessary data, that there's certainly more that can be shared to make sure that the users of the credential registry, whether they be students or parents or counselors or employers, are able to get the most out of the registry and the most out of the information. So we're going to work on developing some best practice models for credential listing. And then we're also going to be developing a set of user guides and user tools to make sure that those students and counselors and employers who are pulling data from the registry can make the most use of it and get the most value out of it. While I am on is we've been very excited about having a number of showcases and a lot of interest from partner organizations and vendors who want to begin to pull data from the registry or think about how they'll be able to pull data from the registry in order to put it into the marketplace, in order to have those uses be presented to the various customer bases and user groups that they work with. Again, whether it's students or parents or veterans or one-stop career centers or higher ed, employers, economic development. So we've done a couple of showcases already. We have another one coming up on the 26th of this month. And in addition to that, we're beginning to make plans for, and we'll be rolling out a series of regional app development hackathons where we're really engaging different developers from different communities and different universities, and whether it's Silicon Valley or Austin or Chicago or New York, various places where we can tap into a lot of creative development talent and to help us think about other ways and the best ways that this data can be put to use for the benefit of a whole variety of users. And I'm going to have us flip to the next slide here, where there's a little bit more detail for those of you that have not been able to join us on our showcases. We did one in December where we had a set of partners talk about how they would like to begin to use this registry data. This December showcase was really organized largely around the higher education community. In January, we had 2 organizations demonstrate uses of this information in the employer marketplace. And then coming up on the 26th, we're going to have some organizations that are interested in looking at the data back from an education standpoint, some from more of a high school CTE, some from higher ed. And we're going to continue to host these showcases over the coming years every so often as we have more interest and more people that are ready to demonstrate that. And as the hackathons and regional events get scheduled and take place, we'll make sure that everyone in our community knows about them and can participate as they'd like to. And we can move ahead. I was mentioning some of the work we're doing around this first inventory of credentials. The formal report will be out in a few weeks, but we have been working very hard to come up with a very confident count of the number of credentials that are in the marketplace, and it just keeps growing. This number of 300,000 is a little outdated. It's closer to 350,000 now. As we capture information about 2- and 4-year degrees, about diplomas, registered apprenticeships, certifications, and licenses, we're still, as you can see on this slide, working to capture the full number of high school diplomas that are available in the United States. We're looking to capture unregistered apprenticeships. There's a whole host of licenses and certifications that are not currently tracked by DOL, and so we're trying to get a handle on what those are and why they're not tracked in the numbers. Badges is an enormous universe. Mozilla tracks somewhere just shy of 1 million badges, and we're trying to determine how best to capture that group of credentials. And then we're continuing to work with the military to capture that world as well. So it's a large number, and we're trying to bring about the best count that we could possibly provide to the marketplace, so we're all working on one set of data. And we can move on, where I'm going to turn it over to Emily, who can give you a few updates on some of the work we're doing to grow the number of credentials that we're publishing.
Great, thanks, Scott. So Scott already mentioned a lot of the work we're doing. I'll just give a couple of more details about how we're hoping to capture more of the credentials in the marketplace. So the work that we're doing in states, Scott mentioned the work in Indiana has been focused on healthcare credentials, and we have captured almost all of that healthcare industry in Indiana on the registry with about 1,000 credentials published. And also want to mention that we've worked really intentionally. If somebody whose phone that is could mute, thank you. So we've also in Indiana worked really intentionally with the military to capture the connections between those healthcare credentials in Indiana and military credentials, so we're sort of piloting the work with the military there. In New Jersey, we're just sort of kicking off the work. We're starting to get that information published in industries like healthcare, IT, advanced manufacturing. And then we've just released an RFP to bring on at least 2 states to start, and as Scott mentioned, we want to bring on at least 10 states by the end of the year. So that's one of the ways that we're hoping to scale up this year. We're also, as Scott mentioned, working in specific industries, including hospitality and retail, and we'll be working with those associations to publish credentials in the industry by reaching out to the appropriate credentialing organizations and institutions. And then we've also been working with the Business Roundtable to encourage their member companies to publish their credentials if they offer them. And I see some people on the webinar today who are represented there. We are also asking them to encourage the education and training providers they work with to publish to the registry, and also use the registry data in their hiring systems. So those are sort of some of the ways that we are planning to scale up this year and get to that 50,000 credentials. If we can go on to the next slide. This is the representation of credentials that we currently have. So as Scott mentioned, we have about 2,200, and they do represent a variety of different types of credentials, the biggest chunks being certificates, bachelor's and associate's degrees, and certifications. And of course, we want to make sure that the representation here represents the full marketplace. So that study that Scott mentioned will really help us understand which sectors seem to be publishing more. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see that we have also registry participants, so those of you who are publishing to the registry also represent a wide variety of types of institutions, from 4-year institutions, 2-year institutions, quality assurance bodies, certification bodies, businesses. So we want to continue to make sure that the institutions and organizations that are publishing are representative. And I can turn it over to Jeannie now. Oh, just kidding, to Carrie.
Nice try. Alrighty, well, just a quick communications update for everyone. We are really excited. You know, post-launch, we got a lot of great media attention and feedback from you guys and from other stakeholders who are also excited about getting this work kind of running and up to scale. Just a quick note, we had viewers not only in the USA, but we had people join us on our webinar of our webcast of the launch event in countries like Germany and the UK and Canada and even Brazil. So I know Scott talked about going international soon, but we are already international in coverage. A couple of new resources for you to be able to use. I already gave everybody the YouTube link to our newest video, All In with Credential Engine. This is a really nice piece that demonstrates why business and education and labor and philanthropy and everybody's really coming in all in on this Credential Engine, credential registry work. We also have on our YouTube page a brief telestration, which might be a helpful tool for you as you help explain to maybe your colleagues about what exactly the credential registry is and how does it work and why it's important. So that's also available on our YouTube page. And coming soon, we will have a use case video kind of spotlighting how Indiana has used the credential registry and the CTDL to advance their work in the healthcare sector. So that's another resource I will have for you hopefully in the next few months. I know we get a lot of questions about how do I make the case to an audience like mine. And I have a series of fact sheets available on our website. There's a link in the PowerPoint which will be emailed out to everybody after this presentation, but I encourage you to go check those out. It helps make the value proposition to employers, quality assurance bodies, certification and licensure bodies, as well as higher ed. We've also got a fact sheet on the Indiana use cases. We're creating a fact sheet around our certification or our CTDL language, and we will continue to update and have those as resources available to you. Furthermore, another way that we're really going to be successful is if we can share your stories. So if you've got a story to tell about what Credential Engine's work means to you and the people that you serve, please reach out to me. My email is right there on your screen. It's csampson@credentialengine.org. I would love to share your story and help you make that happen. You can also follow us on our social media pages. We're active on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So I encourage you to look us up there, as well as our YouTube page. And one other thing that I know we already mentioned, but I do want to give one other plug. If you're curious about really seeing a hands-on example of just how useful the credential registry can be to help solve real-world problems, we are having that application showcase on February 26th, and I put an RSVP link in the chat box to that, so please check us out. Finally, keep your eyes peeled on this summer. We will be revealing a new website redesign that will be a little easier to navigate and hopefully useful to you, but I look forward to getting your feedback on that once it's released. I believe without any other communications updates, I'm going to turn things over to Jeannie.
Yes, hi everyone, good afternoon. This is Jeannie Kitchens. I want to talk a little bit about the Credential Engine technologies that are available for all of you to begin to use if you haven't started already. And speaking of communications, Carrie, so thanks for the segue, I want to just briefly touch on the Educational and Occupational Credentials and Schema.org community group. If you're interested, this is a World Wide Web Consortium community group, and it's important because as we'll look at in just a moment, we want Credential Engine, CTDL metadata on both the open web and in the registry. So this community is a starting point to introduce a small set of vocabulary to Schema.org. Schema.org is the largest repository of linked data in the world, and it's used by all the major search engines. They need your feedback, so feel free to join the group, take a look at the wiki to see what is going on with the group, and you can also receive updates in your email by joining the email list. So just briefly on the Credential Engine big picture, what you're looking at here is a diagram that shows that organizations that want to publish to the registry will utilize the Credential Engine account system, which I'm going to talk about and demonstrate in just a moment for you. And you have multiple options through that account system that you can select to publish credential or quality assurance information to the registry. And through these options, once you're happy with that information, it gets published to the registry, and then that data is available for consuming. Currently, you can go to credentialfinder.org and see what the data in the registry looks like thus far. And then ultimately, as I was just mentioning, a part of what will drive more traffic to this credential information will also be once those major search engines start picking up structured metadata, just as is in the registry, it will begin to improve the application's marketplace and discovery of credential information, both from the registry and on the open web. So kind of in a nutshell, the Credential Engine supports both publishing of data to the registry and consuming that data from the registry. So it supports publishing of credentials, competencies, quality assurance information to the registry. The benefit is having that structured linked data that improves access to all these types of information, and to communicate about the data with third-party systems using CTDL, which offers a common schema for both humans and machines. For the data consumers, the registry, the utility of the registry is going to one place and being able to get first-hand information from the publishers of the credential. Credential Engine is not an aggregator. Everything in the registry was approved by the owner or offerer of the credential. So it makes it a one-stop shop, making it easier for application developers and systems to pull that data in new and useful ways, valuable to the customers and communities that need that information. We'll also be able to reference data after the credential is no longer offered, so there'll be a way now to look back and say, well, in this year, what was included in that credential? What competencies were included with that credential, as an example. And of course, we'll be able to create applications that compare and contrast credentials that prior to the CTDL was not possible. So if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put them in the chat. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and move on to talking about the account system. If you are on the webinar and have already been using the Credential Engine publisher that has been used to manually enter credential information, your account information was transferred to the new Credential Engine account system. And you should have received an email about this. So if you did receive it, take a look at that email. It provides some step-by-step directions on how to proceed and basically to log into this new account system, confirm your account, and submit your organization for approval by Credential Engine. And then once you do that, you'll be able to log back into the publisher and continue the work that you were doing on your credentials so you can finish them up, approve them, and publish them to the registry. As a follow-up to this webinar, you'll be receiving, of course, a copy of this PowerPoint, so don't worry about those details right now. We'll make sure that you have those after the webinar. So the authentication system is a three-part process. So think of it as how you create an account. Now you would first create an account. So an account, there's always one account per person, but an organization could have more than one person with an account related to that organization. So the first step is to create accounts. The second step is to enter the organization information and then submit it for approval. The next step is the Credential Engine will receive that approval and then you can begin to publish. All of this is automated through the account system. And what I'm going to do is give you a little peek at that, give you a little demo. So let me pull over my screen share. Can everyone see my screen? You should see Publish to the Credential Registry. Yes, good. Okay, so if you don't already have an account, or if you do have an account with Credential Engine, you need to go back and confirm your account so you can get access to the publisher. This is where you're going to do it, credentialengine.org/accounts. Here's where you log in to, if you already have an account, to maintain your account information, or if you register to create a new account. So let me go ahead and show you what those screens look like. You'll see they're pretty easy. So the first step is to create your account. You would put in your email address, give yourself a profile name, put in your first name, last name, create a password, put your job title in, a way to contact you in addition to your email, and agree to the terms of use. So this is where you're going to agree to the Credential Engine policies and terms of use, including the minimum data and currency policy, in order to get approval to publish to the registry. So that's the first step. Just correct your set up your account, click submit, and check your email. When you check your email, you're going to find a confirmation email that you click on to confirm your account. And when you do that, it is going to send you to this web page automatically. So you check your email, confirm your account, and you're going to complete your organization's information. So we want to know what type of organization you're with. Is it an organization that wants to, is a credentialing organization, or is a quality assurance organization, for example? You pick the publishing methods that you would like to use, and you can pick multiple methods. So if you're not really sure which method would be best for you, you can pick a couple of them. So whether you want to do manual entry, use the API, for example, you would pick those. In the next section, you're going to enter your organization information. So for example, your organization name, a URL, a unique identifier for your organization's email address, the location, so address, type contact information, and then a little bit of additional information so we can get an idea of the sector and type of organization. And then the last part is just to provide an estimate for the number of credentials and type of credentials that you are going to publish. And these are just estimates, so they do not have to be exact, but it helps for planning purposes, so the Credential Engine team can help you and pick the best method for publishing as well. And if you're going to publish more than one type of credential, then you would just click Add New Publishing Estimate, and you could put as many estimates in as you need to by type of credential. You could save it without submitting and come back later to finish it, but what you're going to want to do is save and submit it for approval. So once you do that, it's automatically sending an email to you and to the Credential Engine team, who will come in and take a look. It's also saving your notifications to your account. You're seeing my account, and I get to see everybody's information, but you would only see yours. And if you looked in the top right-hand corner, you would get to see all the emails that were sent to you, so you could go back to them and not have to rely on your inbox to keep track of those. So you could see here that the emails provide direct information about whatever action has been taken. It provides URLs to go directly to the system and will send you to wherever you need to go. So if you selected to use the publisher and it was approved, the email is going to send you to the publisher. So that's what I wanted to show with the account system. Let me come back over here and stop my screen share. Move that out of the way. And let's see, are there any questions that have come in so far that I need to answer? Nope. Okay. If you already have an account, and I think there's already a note in the chat, but if you already had an account in the publisher, that account was transferred over to the new account system. What you need to do is log into that new account system, confirm your account, and make sure your organization is approved. So if you already had a login, go to the Credential Engine accounts webpage, click to log in, use the same login you used for the publisher, and it will automatically direct you to the next screen that you need to work on. Okay, so let me talk about the publishing procedure. So the Credential Registry currently supports publishing credential information, quality assurance information. So for example, an accrediting body can publish information about their quality assurance services, and competency frameworks. So competency frameworks can be included in credential descriptions, but if your organization publishes competency frameworks that aren't directly tied to a credential, those can still be published as well. Regardless of what you're going to publish to the registry, you're going to set up an account in that system that I just showed you. And once you're in there, you have options for self-publishing or third-party publishing. So self-publishing is, say for example, a college is going to publish their credentials on their own to the registry. They would set up an account just as I just showed you, identify their organization, select how they want to publish, and that workflow kicks in. Everybody gets their automatic emails, it gets approved, and they're given access. Another way of doing it is third-party publishing. So for example, if you're a college or a university and you have a catalog system, or you have a badging system or a student information system, and that system wants to publish to the registry for you, that would be an example of third-party publishing. So that third-party publisher would set up an account in the system that I just showed you. They would identify that they're a third-party publishing, and in the system, they would identify who they're going to publish for. The college and users at the college that are identified would automatically be notified, and the college would approve that third-party publishing. So Credential Engine is not an aggregator, but it does support third-party publishing because we know that there will be third parties that can provide that service to, as an example, a college or university, but this could be applicable to any kind of organization, to have third parties publish on their behalf with the permission of the credentialing organization. Okay, so once you identify what kind of publishing you're going to do, you can pick the method. And so currently the methods are to use an API for structured data, use bulk upload, or manual entry. And I'll get a little bit more into those options in just a moment. So the Credential Engine is ready to have the organization's credentials published to the registry at scale. So using those options, it would be, selecting the most appropriate for your organization. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide, but you do have options. The options are there to allow any organization to publish at scale using the 3 available options, and then we'll be working on a harvesting option as well. So just a little tiny bit more information about those options. So as we're all working together to improve credential transparency, we'll make recommendations on, whether or not you should use manual entry as an example, because really, that would be best for very small numbers of stable credentials. However, we do want to encourage publishing to the registry, so we do understand that there'll be many instances where an organization may want to kind of build up, right? So scale up themselves, start off with some manual entry or maybe some bulk upload. And with bulk upload, if you could envision thinking about, say, formats akin to a spreadsheet, where we might need to upload multiple spreadsheets. And that's actually done in the publisher as well. So that's another option. And the application programming interface, that would be something that you would need a developer, or someone who knows your data. It requires structured data, so you would have some internal mechanism in your organization to use an API for, and that's preferred because that would enable real-time updates as credential information changes in your organization, because you could just push that data to the registry whenever needed. So for the harvesting, this is something we'll be working on this year. And what's important to know about that is Credential Engine won't go out and just try to crawl websites and try to figure out what the data is. For harvesting, the owner of the data would still create an account and say, hey, we have CTDL structured data on our site. We give you approval to come get it and put it into the registry. So, but the idea would be that we have structured CTDL data on the web and in the registry, and simply another option to have real-time updates into the registry. All right, so that is all I have to cover for the account system and the publishing options. And we can just pause for a moment here and see if anybody has any questions or comments. And if not, we'll move on to the next steps.
All right. Well, while I am going over the next steps, if anybody has questions, feel free to type them into the chat box and we'll definitely address them. But I just wanted to sort of lay out the next steps for you that Jeannie has gone into in detail. So if you already had an account with Credential Engine, make sure that you've gone in and approved it. And if you haven't, go ahead and create that account. We encourage you to, after you do that, publish more of your credentials if you've published some. And of course, if you haven't published any at all yet, we encourage you to start publishing. Once you do publish, you'll have to go in and approve your information. If you have published some credentials already and have not approved it, that means it's not public information yet. So go ahead and approve your information. And of course, as you're going through these steps, the team here is happy to be a resource and answer any questions, and you'll find our contact information on the last slide, so feel free to reach out with any questions. And to stay connected, sign up for updates on our website. You'll see the link right there. And again, thank you for joining us today and for taking the time and for being part of this, this project and endeavor. And I don't see any more questions, so if anything comes up, feel free to reach out to us. But since I don't see anything from the participants right now, I think we can go ahead and close. And just again, want to say thank you for joining.
Thanks, everyone.